anxiety about the unknown.
I could hear the steps.
He had all
walking up
black
the
eyes.
stairs.
There was no
All of a sudden, this
light in
huge
his eyes.
object with lights was on
And
top
it
of
made
us.
no sound.
The fear. Yes, this happened.
I looked up and saw my reflection on the mirror, but I also saw another girl in the distance. She had like a white aura, and she looked a bit faded. I kept looking at the reflection because it seemed strange to me that, to see someone else there. So I turned around to see and find out who she was, but there was no one there.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Yes, This Happened, the weekly podcast that features real-life testimonials of paranormal events, as told by the people who experienced them firsthand. Today's guest, Mónica from Mexico, shares her story of encountering a spirit in her school that always appeared at dusk, and how she ultimately uncovered a tragic story related to the school grounds and the girl's apparition.
The story that I will tell you happened to me exactly 5 years ago. In my old high school. A private high school in the city of Chilpancingo in the state of Guerrero. This school did not have typical buildings. It had classrooms or halls that spread throughout the property. My classroom was at the end of the entire school, literally on the edge next to a ravine, making it the furthest from the main entrance. So the school did not have good lighting, only the lights in the classrooms, which came on at 7 in the morning when everything was dark and the first class began. But there was nothing on the courts, which were in the center. So they were always dark, and when it was really early, you couldn't see anything. To be honest, I was a bit scared to walk across the whole school to get to my classroom. But like every school, different activities were organized, right? One day my classmates and I stayed at school until late finishing a project. As everyone finished their part of the work, they went to their house, and that's what happened until only a friend of mine named Natalia and I were left. We were finishing putting everyone's work together, so time passed so quickly that when we realized that it was 8 or 8:15 in the afternoon or night, there was no sunlight or anyone else in the entire school, except us and the security guard. But he was always in his booth right in front of the entrance. So to get there, we had to go through the whole school. So time passed, and I wanted to go to the restroom, but I didn't want to go alone. The restrooms were in the middle of the school, also in a very dark area because they were next to the parking lot. So I asked Natalia if she wanted to come with me, and she said yes, that she also needed to go. So we decided to hurry up and finish the project to go to the restroom, and from there, go home and not have to return to the classroom. So we finished, we packed up our stuff, and went to the restroom together. While walking through the court, we both felt a cold wind. It was a strange feeling, we both got goosebumps. We looked at each other and even made a comment, but we decided to ignore it.
Mónica and her friend Natalia experience a strange sensation of cold while on their way to the restrooms, not knowing that in just a few minutes, they will find another student in there, a young woman who will make them change their perspective about the afterlife as Mónica uncovers her tragic story.
We got to the restrooms, we left our backpacks outside right in front of where there was a sort of park bench. And we both went in. I finished first, and the sinks and the mirror were right in front of the bench, right after you exited the restrooms. So, I proceeded to wash my hands. And when I started to wash my hands, I looked up and saw my reflection on the mirror, but I also saw another girl in the distance. She had like a white aura, and she looked a bit faded. I kept looking at the reflection because it seemed strange to me that, to see someone else there. So I turned around to see and find out who she was, but there was no one else. There was no one there. So I kept washing my hands, and when I looked up again to see my reflection, this girl was now closer to me. At that moment, I noticed several things because I was so very shocked. I tried to remember well all her features and characteristics that I was looking at that moment, right? She was a girl of approximately 17 or 18 years old, not very tall. I would estimate her to be approximately 1 meter 55 centimeters tall. She was wearing the school uniform, but it was a little different with different details, but they were the same colors, and she was wearing the high school logo. She had a high ponytail. Her hair was wavy and light brown. Her face was completely pale and thin with deep eyes. So much that they looked dark. Her gaze was one of fear, shock, I would even dare to say pain. I decided to turn around again, and when I did, I had her right in front of me. Without thinking, I stepped backwards until I bumped into the sink, and in just mere seconds she had disappeared.
Monica recently had a frightening encounter with a young woman in the school restrooms. The woman was wearing a uniform similar to Monica's, but with slight variations. She suddenly and mysteriously vanished, leaving Monica to question the meaning behind the encounter and where the woman went.
Yes, this happened.
Monica and her friend, Natalia, have remained at the school past regular hours to work on a project. With all of their classmates gone, the school has grown dark and fear starts to set in. But Monica's fear escalates when she sees a young woman dressed as a student in the school restrooms. A young woman with a tragic story, which is yet to be uncovered.
Almost immediately, my friend came out of the bathroom. Natalia looked at me and saw I was so shocked that she asked me if I was okay, and I told her that I had seen a girl. She replied that there was no one at school except us and that I was very pale, so she opened her backpack to get a piece of candy and to give it to me. But when she looked up at the parking lot, she also saw the girl. And just like me, she walked backwards until she collided with the restroom wall. This girl somehow made me understand that I should follow her. I didn't even think about it. I just started walking behind her for no reason, heading toward the courts. She walked to the center of the basketball courts, and I stayed right on the edge watching her. She looked in my direction, levitated, made a rather strange shape with her body, and dropped to the ground and completely disappeared. I kept waiting to see if I would see her again, if she would show up or if she would tell me something. But she didn't. My mind got kind of got lost for a moment. And then I realized that I had to go back to Natalia. And I went very fast. In fact, I ran. She was sitting on the bench, very, very pale and in shock. She asked me if that was what I had seen, and I answered yes. We kept thinking about everything that had just happened to us. We even described the same person, and we realized that we saw exactly the same thing. We didn't know if it was real or not, but we didn't want to be there anymore. That was for sure, so we took our things and went to the booth with the guard.
The encounter with the spirit of a student at her school has left both Monica and Natalia very scared. So they decide to go to their houses. But Monica still has many questions for the school watchman.
And I asked if there was anyone else at school beside us, if another student had stayed, and he said no, that we were the only ones. Then he stared at us, and that's when he asked why. So I replied that we had seen another girl. Actually, I told him the whole story that we had just gone through. He just made a surprised face and answered us with, well, girl, it's late. Go home to rest. See you tomorrow. It's time to rest. And we left. Natalia and I decided to let it go and not talk about it anymore. The following week, I arranged to meet another friend for lunch. Her name is Andrea, and she is older than me and had just studied at the same high school. So I decided to tell her the whole story, and I described it to her as I had experienced it, with all the details. She was very surprised, especially how I described the girl I had seen. She even told me that what I was saying was not possible. And she took out her cell phone and showed me a Facebook profile that I had never seen before in my entire life. And she asked me if this was the girl I had seen. I said yes. I told her it's the same girl. At this moment, she began to tell me that when she was studying there was a cheerleading team, and that cheerleading team was so popular at that school that they went to competitions and all that stuff. She also belonged, my friend, to that team. And she told me that one day they stayed training a little late after school, but did not use the proper protection. And that when they were throwing one of her teammates, the one with the same characteristics that she had just showed me on the Facebook profile, the girl fell down, and the blow to her head was so strong that she died.
Monica learns the tragic story of the cheerleader, which provides her with the understanding of what she and her friend witnessed at school that night. However, from that day on, Monica continues to see the young cheerleader reliving her horrible accident repeatedly.
The days went by. The school year continued. Therefore also the projects. So on multiple occasions I would stay late at school. And whenever it began to get dark, I would see the same girl heading to the courts, get to the center of the courts and look at me. No matter where I was, she turned to see me, rose to the same position, fell, and disappeared. I don't know if she still shows herself like this to other students or what has happened, but this is my story, and that's what I experienced 5 years ago.
It is believed that experiencing a paranormal event can open up one's senses to perceiving more inexplicable occurrences. Could this be what enables Monica to continue seeing the cheerleader reliving her tragedy? Is the cheerleader still reliving this event in front of new students today? We may never know. But Monica's testimony remains as evidence of paranormal events that transcended their dimension to find us in ours. What do you think? If you have a paranormal experience you'd like to share with us, please visit aguamedia.com. Look for the Yes, This Happened section and fill out the form so we can get in touch with you. You can also send us an email with the details of your experience to yestishappened@aguamedia.com. We'd love to hear from you. On the next episode of Yes, This Happened.
Some really strange things started happening to us.
A family looking for temporary housing finds much more than they were looking for.
That's when we heard a really strong sound coming from downstairs. It was a really, really loud sound followed by a sound of crystals breaking. It was really a sound that led me so nervous that my legs were trembling from the sound, and you knew that something really big had fallen down or broken. So we screamed at the lady that works with us downstairs. She was downstairs. If everything was okay, and she couldn't answer us.
A true case of the poltergeist phenomenon in Mexico.
One day my daughter told me, "Hey Mom, Dad got home and he didn't say hi to me or give me a kiss." And I was like, "No, mi amor, Papi hasn't gotten home." She said, "Yes, Daddy got home and he went up the stairs."
On the next episode of Yes, This Happened.